Hi everyone, thank you for watching and welcome to the first edition of RootsCamp. Today I want to talk to you about preparing your Engaging Networks account for year end. And the first thing I want to highlight is scheduling your emails to go out. So on busy days like Giving Tuesday and the last day of the year, Engaging Networks encourages their clients to schedule their emails in advance because it's a first come, first serve situation. The earlier you get your emails in the queue for popular times like 11 a.m. or 11 p.m., the more likely you're going to actually get that time because EN will start sending out their client emails that are scheduled for that same time in order of when they were actually scheduled. So one piece of advice I have to give you is obviously schedule them as far in advance as you possibly can. If you're not able to schedule them too far in advance, to choose a random time like 11:17 to hopefully get in the queue for that time. If you don't schedule your emails, it may not be a big deal. You might be able to still get them sent out around that time. But in past busy years, I have seen emails that go out hours later. And so if you're aiming for that 11 p.m. final email of the day time, and you miss that window and end up going out at 1 a.m. instead, obviously that will hurt your Giving Tuesday fundraising goals. So to schedule an email, you can see here, I just click on this email, it pops down, and I've got these circles that indicate the process for creating and sending a message in EN. And the one with the arrow is the send step. I would choose my list. And here you have this scheduling process for your emails. You can see that there are two options, send the email immediately or schedule to go out later. If you don't fill in this circle, you can accidentally send your email right away. So make sure, even if you set the scheduling details, you have to fill in that circle or else your email will just go out right away. So fill in that circle. I just wanted to show you here that the date format is day, month, year, and EN defaults to tomorrow. So today is November 2nd, they've defaulted to November 3rd. This is military time, so when you're setting up your time, just keep that in mind. And then the time zone is what time zone you're in and when you want it to go out. So I'm in DC, I want the email to go out 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's what time everybody's gonna get it, at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Once you've made those selections, you can just click schedule send, and your email will end up in the queue for whatever day you're trying to send it. The other thing I just want to point out to you is that if there's any profiles in your sends, you want to make sure that you schedule those. So you can schedule your profiles by clicking on these blue and black circles, and that way EN will run your profile every 24 hours, so you don't have to remember to go in and manually reset your profile to grab people who meet that criteria. So those are just things to keep in mind when you're scheduling your emails, which I recommend you do. The second thing I want to talk to you about is fraud and turning on certain fraud settings in your Engaging Networks account. During year end, we have a high volume of donations, so we're probably going to see some fraud. Unfortunately, nonprofit donation pages are easy targets for fraudsters. And if you're the victim of a lot of fraudulent transactions, your payment gateway can shut you down and just stop accepting any kind of donations, which during year end is a crucial giving time, would be a major problem. So I just want to point out some things that you can do to hopefully protect your organization. The first thing is you should go through all of your existing donation pages and close any that are no longer need to be active. So you want to have as few targets as possible on your back. So go to the settings for your page. And here you have the status. You can just change this to closed. And I would recommend, if you're closing old donation pages, to click on this closed URL option and enter the URL for your generic donation page. That way, if somebody accidentally ends up on this old URL, they obviously want to make a donation, so you can now redirect them to a donation page where they can do that. So that's the first thing, is to close your pages that you don't need open and redirect them to a generic page. The second thing is to turn on CAPTCHA on your pages. Now, if you only want CAPTCHA to be visible for people who are visiting your page from countries outside of North America or out of particular countries, you can do that. So you may not want to add the additional barrier of a CAPTCHA to your donation pages. That's extra friction that might hurt your donations. And so one of the things that Engaging Networks has done here is if you check this Enable CAPTCHA button on one of your form blocks, you can either show that CAPTCHA to all supporters, or here you can see you can show it to supporters who are coming from high-risk countries. So these are countries that see a significant amount of fraud taking place. Engaging Networks has already selected these countries for you. So if I go to Manage Rules, I check this pencil, you'll see in each of the continents that Engaging Networks has selected countries where they've seen a lot of fraud coming from. If you accept donations from places like Israel and you don't want your Israeli donors to have to see the CAPTCHA, you can turn off a country, but you can also add countries if you want by checking these boxes and clicking Save. So add a CAPTCHA to your pages, but display it only for people coming from countries that are potentially high risk or not countries you get a lot of donations from. So that's the second thing I would point out to you. Next, if you go up to your account settings, you'll see that you have this notifications email option. And this will allow you to receive notifications from Engaging Networks if they see a spike in failed transactions on your account, which would indicate that fraud might be occurring. So if you click on New Email, you just fill out this information, name, email address, and phone number, and here you can see you want to receive alerts for spam and fraud. And that'll send you a text and an email if they see a spike in failed transactions. And finally, I just want to show you here that under Data and Reports, there's the option to run a finance report. And one of the filters you can run is failed transactions. So I would run this fairly frequently just to track how many failed transactions are happening on your pages. And you're really looking for trends. Are we seeing an increase in failed transactions? Maybe that's because your donation page isn't working properly, but it also could be that you're being targeted with fraud. And so you want to go to those pages, either close them or fix what might be wrong, maybe add a CAPTCHA to it. But that's one way you can monitor how much fraud is happening on your pages. So those are things that you can do to kind of protect yourself and your organization from fraudulent transactions that can unfortunately be uncommon during year end. The final tip I want to give you is about your automations. So if I go over here to account settings, you'll see that one of the options is right here. It says include supporters active in journeys to all outbound email broadcasts. By default, Engaging Networks is going to exclude supporters from your regular email sends who are in a marketing automation journey. So you have a new supporter who's in a welcome series and you're sending out your newsletter. They're not going to get that because EN is sort of walling them off from your regular email. If you check this box, they will receive it. So basically, any emails you're sending out will also go to people who are currently in a marketing automation journey. So that's just something to keep in mind. Maybe on Giving Tuesday, you do want to include all supporters, even if they're in a journey, in a marketing automation journey, in your email sends that you're sending out, because you want all people to get all the fundraising appeals on a big day like Giving Tuesday. It's also possible if you go into your emails to bypass your settings there. So here I'm about to send this email and I can see at the bottom it says, for this email, please include supporters on all marketing automation workflows. In other words, this email that you're about to send out is going to break through that marketing automation wall, and it's going to get sent to everybody who's in your marketing automations, as well as anybody who's in your regular list that you're selecting here. So it means that if people qualify for this email, they're going to get it whether they're in a marketing automation journey or not. So like I said, on a Giving Tuesday or the last day of the year, when you're trying to get these emails out to as many people as possible, you want to think about how do we make sure we include all of our supporters who are currently active in a marketing automation journey. So those are the three things that I wanted to highlight for you to make sure you've got configured in Engaging Networks before year end comes. I wish you tons of luck. If you have any questions or you're running into any issues, we will be carefully monitoring our email and responding as quickly as we can during these times. My email address is, of course, brandon@weraisetheroots.com. And we hope that you hit all of your fundraising goals and have a great year-end season.